Good everyone, over this video, and today we have this should have been the first flight, but for some reason my recording software, in its infinite wisdom, because it seems to play with problems nowadays, decided, you know what, we're not going to record your microphone, we're just going to record the gameplay. Perfect logic, isn't it? But don't worry, that issue has been ironed out. The first flight was okay, but when you get swarmed by I-15s and I-16s eager to kill the new plane, yeah, there's not exactly a lot you can do. So, we're going to be going over the Arado 196, we're going to be going over the event as a whole, and I'm actually going to use the replay for the first flight, because I don't think it's really fair to do another flight, because, well, that's just how it is. I mean, I don't want to skip the first flight, because obviously people might want to see the first flight, so we're going to be doing that instead. I know that annoys some of you that I might be using a replay for that, but that's just the way it is sometimes. Technical issues happen, and I don't really want to do a second flight of the aircraft until I at least either review this aircraft or come back to it again at some point, which I likely will. So the Arado 196 is one of the new event vehicles as of Operation Summer, or as some people call it, Suffer, which for you tankers, most likely the case. Um, and the Arado 196 is the first plane that you can unlock. And personally, it's the only vehicle that I did go for in this event. There's a good reason for that. So the event as a whole, and there's the defeat on the first flight, tells you how quick it was, well, it's one of the, as I said, it's one of the event vehicles, and this is really the only thing that I was interested in. And the tanks weren't that interesting to me, especially the IKV, and from the videos I've seen, that thing sucks. And of course, for those of you that are new, I do not play naval, so that that will likely give you an idea of how little I was actually caring about this event. But the one thing that I do love is seaplanes. I love planes like this, like float planes, giant flying boats. I love them all. They're very interesting aircraft to me, and I've always found them interesting, and they're fun to fly for the most part. So the Arado 196 was really the only thing that I was interested in, because I soon worked out that the IKV was going to be cannon fodder, the Leopard is going to get lol penned, and the Jet is going to be missile fodder. So you can kind of understand why I was more interested in this aircraft. So let's go over the aircraft, and then we can jump into, well, we can show the replay of that battle, because, well, that I don't know why the mic didn't record. For some reason, it just had it set to no device detected, which I don't know why that was the case, but I'm guessing there was an update with the recording software that I use, so that's probably why. So we'll go over the aircraft and we'll explain everything that you need to know about the aircraft, and I'll tell you how I had it set up in the battle, or in the battle that I had presented, but obviously the mic didn't record, so there you go. So starting off, we have the critical weakness of this aircraft, which is the floats. The floats contain all the fuel. There is no fuel stored internally. So in other words, if your fuel leaks out or your floats fall off, you're kind of screwed because you've only got 30 seconds of fuel left. So in terms of offensive armament, we do have two 20mm MGFF cannon, which is actually pretty effective. I mean, I can't knock it. It's certainly a good cannon. The trouble is that it's very hard to get the guns on target due to one problem with the aircraft itself, which I'll show you in a battle. But then to back that all up, you also have a 7.92 MG17 machine gun with 500 rounds. Perfectly adequate, and to be honest, it's a very nice machine gun to use. I've always liked the MG17. It's a very reliable machine gun, and so is the MG15 that we have in the back. But unfortunately, our kill does get stolen in the battle I'm going to show you. In terms of the engine, we are powered by what Gaijin claims is a BMW 13K. That is not the case. From what I've been able to find, it is the 132K. And the engine horsepower output is actually wrong. It should not be 974 horsepower. It should be 947 approximately. But this is Gaijin. They're not exactly the smartest when it comes to giving out a vehicle's power output. But it's sufficient. It gets the aircraft along to its top speed pretty respectively. But of course, having those floats does make the aircraft handle a bit like a dog. So you just gotta take that into account. In terms of secondary weapons, well, you have to keep these. These are two 50-kilogram bombs. I didn't get to use them. I had to ditch them to try and outrun my opponents, but obviously that's not going to happen. This aircraft is not fast. So it was more a matter of it's better than well, it's better to try than not do anything. So there you go. In terms of how I had the aircraft set up for the battle, I had universal in the 7.92. I had the APT ammunition set in the back for the MG15, and for the 20mm, I had air targets. Gun convergence was 400 meters. This is due to the cannons exploding or self-detonating at 600 meters approximately. So it's better to have a nice tight gun convergence because then you can at least get the target or get the shells to hit better, and overall just have more reliable shots, and obviously not fire at long range where you might not even hit the target. And obviously, as you can tell, I barely got any RP out of that battle because, well, the team lost, and you're going to see why. But it is low tier. Please do not give any of the players grief. It is low tier. They're obviously not going to know what they're doing for the most part. So, yeah, don't give any of the players that you're going to see in my battle any grief. Please don't. I don't encourage, like, giving lower tier players grief. I have shown in the past some aggression to some of the lower tier players, but those are experienced players. They should at least know what they're doing. And if they don't, then those are the players I'm going to have a go at, not players who are completely new to the game or anything like that. So, any of the players that you see in this battle, please don't give them grief. I never check their player card, they're likely new. So, please don't. As much as I just don't want people to go, oh, your entire team was noobs. I mean, there might have been some experienced pilots for all I know, and they may have just made a mistake. But at the time, I personally didn't think about it, and well, it's likely most of these players were new, including the enemy team apart from a couple. So, there you go. So as you can tell, this replay is just 5 minutes long, and that is a perfect example of what's to come. So as you can tell, it is purely Russia versus Germany and Italy. We're in a 2.0 battle, and well, this isn't going to go very well for anyone, to be brutally honest. It's not going to go well for most of my team, I should really say. Now, given the aircraft that are on my team, I would heavily suspect that most of my team are new. So as I mentioned, please don't give them grief. They're most likely new. But obviously, if you have to carry, then that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't carry in this thing. I don't trust this aircraft yet to carry. Maybe that might improve with a couple more flights, but I wouldn't want to carry a team in this aircraft. It just doesn't, like, I haven't had enough flight experience in the aircraft. So there goes the Stuka, doing what Stukas do, just dive straight down upon their ground targets. He's not going to get to do much because he's going to get swarmed by enemy fighters. And obviously, the only Russian bomber that they actually have is that SP-2M. Now, the Ju-80A is trying to play fighter mode, which is already questionable at best because it is the A1 model. That thing's not exactly much of a fighter. I mean, I did a Talisman series video on that, and it did okay, but that was more down to luck than judgment. So obviously, with the MG-FF cannons being rather ping dependent, most of the time you're going to have to rely on things like that, a pilot snipe. But that's just how it is sometimes, and that's just how you're going to have to deal with things. So like I say, I automatically assumed this MiG-3 was a skilled player, so obviously I didn't want to take a head-on with him, and obviously I wanted to fire a couple of shots, score a couple of hits, and just get out the way, which is pretty common. But obviously, as you can tell, the aircraft is maneuverable, but the problem is that the aircraft has a horrendous roll rate. I have not seen a roll rate like this in a long time. Let's put it that way. I think the Lincoln Bomber has a better roll rate. that gives you an idea of how bad the roll rate is. If a 4-engine heavy bomber can outroll this thing. But as you can tell, the MiG is obviously panicking because, well, I'm able to outturn him. And he starts diving towards the deck. And here's why I don't want anyone to give it the MiG or the team the grief. The entire team has currently dove 4 lollyfox in that MiG-3, and it's left me up here pretty much alone. The only other planes that are up here are the S-81 and the Ju-88. The Stuka has actually died after going in for his dive bomb and getting a couple of ground targets, but obviously this aircraft does struggle to climb. It has an okay climb rate, but at this altitude I certainly wouldn't say it's got an amazing rate of climb. And here's where the roll rate is going to bite me in the arse. I'm diving on this Chica and obviously firing a couple of shots, and obviously I'm rolling the aircraft as best I can. But the Chica pilot quickly works out, hang on a minute, he doesn't roll too well, and he can't get his shots on target very well. Let's outmaneuver him, outroll him, and, well, let's get in behind him and start getting some bullets down range. Might be able to hit him, and that's the perfectly valid thing to do against this aircraft. And obviously at this point, I'm on the run. My entire team is still chasing a MiG. I mean, Lollyfox is currently dead. He's been shot down by a... Well, in fact, I think he lagged out because his name's not coming up in the kill feed, but that's perfectly acceptable. And the entire enemy team is now diving on my ass, so I've not exactly got much to do. I have currently ditched the bombs, and this is where Trotsky in the MiG-3 gets a good shot in. I tried to dodge, but obviously he's running stealth rounds. And I didn't know that, of course. I killed that I-16 with a pilot snipe, but at this point, this team's dead. My gunner opens fire on the Zukovsky's Chica. And, well, that's the end of that. And obviously the I-15 kill. I don't actually know who set that on fire, but... Oh, it turns out the 109 did. Never mind. I'm talking crap, but... As you can tell, the entire team was dead, and the only guy left was the S-81 who you saw at the start of the match. So like I say, good first impressions. The aircraft feels fine to maneuver, and the guns seem to work pretty well. It's just that roll rate that throws me off, but I think I'll grow accustomed to that aircraft after, this aircraft after a few more flights. So we'll have to see. But obviously, apologies for assuming that 109 kill stall. Turns out he set the fire, so again, don't give him grief. Wasn't his fault. I assumed I set the fire, because obviously as soon as I opened fire on the I-15, it burst into flames, but even so, that's not a huge deal. But 2 kills, 1 assist, that's not a bad start. I mean, I've certainly had worse starts with a vehicle, but personally, I think this aircraft is going to be fun. The problem is, I just think you need to fly it in a squad. So we'll just have to see how that does. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's first impressions on the Arado 196, and obviously the event overview and everything, just seeing how I felt of it. And well, I will catch you all on the next one.